going to try to talk to you both at the same time, but Margot's also going to help me so that if I forget you, yell at me and I'll turn around and do it. The most asked question that we get is, where do you start? What do you do first? And there's no really tried and true way, set way to do a tree. It kind of depends a lot on the type of tree you're doing. If you're doing a really whimsical tree with a lot of ribbon, and you're not going to do a lot of floral, then you'd probably start with your ribbon. But what I'm going to do tonight is kind of go through the steps that we go through most of the time with most of our trees. And that's trees that have floral, ribbon, focal points, and ornaments on it. So I'll just kind of go through. Along the way, I'm going to give you a few tips along with the steps of what we look for when we're doing the tree, and think it helps make it look better. The first thing we start with is our topper. The top part of the tree, we call it the topper. And it usually will go down anywhere from a fourth to a third of your tree, depending on how large your tree is and how lush a topper you want. The main thing I try to tell people to remember that is to make it really airy. You don't want your topper so thick with floral that it just looks like the tree's got a big lump on the top of it. Try to use long branches, like here I used the longer pine branch that we've already showed you, a really long berry branch. If you can get some floral that's pretty stiff, it's got a pretty stiff core, and it'll stand up on its own, that's what you want to look for. A lot of times a branch, anything like that will work really well. Also, the topper gives you direction, or should give you direction, for what your whole tree is going to look like. In other words, you should have your main pieces of floral, a little bit of your ribbon, and possibly even an ornament. That's not, definite, but you need to have, in other words, you don't want to make a topper and then the rest of your tree look different. You want it to all blend and look like one unit. So use at least 3 to 4 floral picks usually in your topper. Once again, get something with length and have it go up. And I like to see some wall between it. You can look through it and see the room through it. That kind of tells you that it's airy enough. So once you get that done, you also, most of the time, we'll put what we call a focal point in our topper, and that can be anything you want to use. Here, I've used the poinsettias up in here. I also used a branch that had ornaments in it already, so that helped. But you can wire individual ornaments up in there if you want to do that. Did you see the poinsettias? Let me show you later. And then a branch that had ornaments in it. So that's kind of my focal point. And then I'm going to bring those poinsettias on down throughout the tree later. Another thing, I've started my ribbon up in the topper. I've made a bow, one for this side and one for that side. It looks like a gigantic bow. I didn't do these sides of the trees. I tried to do the sides that y'all want to be facing. So it's kind of a funky looking tree right now. But you start with that, and that's pretty much your topper. The next thing I do is if I'm going to use a focal point in a tree, that's when I would suggest you do it is second. Mainly because they're usually fairly large pieces, and depending on how many you're going to use, you can use more than one. I just used one tonight. I did put a lantern in. There's one on each side. This has the beautiful luminaire candles in it that we love so much. And so I wired it in, and these lanterns, you could leave out your back piece of glass and literally use the branches of your tree, as well as some floral wire, and just tuck it deep in there, sit it on a branch, and make sure it's secure. And then you can put anything you want in it. You can use anything for focal points. We kind of went over that, I think, last year, but you can use, like a Santa, an angel, anything large that you want to put in a tree. I would put it second after I've done my topper, so that the placement of that is important. If you're just using one fairly large focal point, we usually put it down in the more fatter part of the tree, kind of the lower half. It tends to look out of balance if it's up high. So if you're just doing one focal point, fairly big one, I would put it kind of down toward the lower part of the tree, and not dead center. Go offset, either to the left or the right. Usually you don't want any linear line up, with anything. You don't want to go straight up and down or horizontal. You want to stagger things, and that gives you a better balance. So once you've done your focal point, the third step that I do is floral, because I like a lot of floral. I tend to make my trees look like floral arrangements, but That's just what I do, but I do like floral, and I think that needs to go next because once again, it's about balance. So what I did next was I put in the sprays that we've already made. I actually put one of those here, and on this side, it's right here, offset, and then Margo, if you want to add one to that side, Margo's going to help me on that side, and I just tore it up. But I'm going to add another of the sprays that we've already learned how to make, about right in here. To the left of the lantern. And if you'll see, in my topper, I have that same pick. So it started there, then it went over to here. They're not lined up directly over each other. It's kind of off. Then I went down lower and to the right and kind of formed a triangle zigzag. Do you see that? You don't want it to be like matchy-matchy, like if I put it up there. You want it to go a little bit lower. And like when you're doing a lantern or a focal point, a lot of times I'll do a floral spray and it'll accent it. It kind of draws your eye to that part of the tree. So that's where you can put one of these sprays. And that's an easy way to do a tree, really, is to make a lot of these little bouquets and just place them, you know, balance them throughout the tree. And then you've got a great look. And then in between that, I'll tell you what you can do to fill in the rest of it. So I did that next. Then I added in this long branch and this long berry. It's the same product I had up there, but I brought it on down into the tree. And another little tip too that you need to think about, up in your topper you usually have everything standing up, kind of upright. Start right below your topper, start bringing it down. Turn all your bouquets downward so you're following the shape of the tree. You don't want it sticking straight out or even up. That normally doesn't work. Certain type of trees you can get away with that if it's a really whimsical tree and you've got a weird kind of a funky thing. Sometimes you can, you know, break that rule. Rules are meant to be broken. But normally we follow the shape of the tree. So what I did next is I put in this green branch, which is really good as far as drawing your eye. That's another thing that we have to think about. See how bright green it is and how it pops on the dark tree? That's something else that you have to think about, is light and dark. You want to bring in light elements. It could be a flocked, you know, white branch. It could be metallic, you know, like gold. Just something to contrast with the bottom, you know, the base part of your tree. That's like your starting point, and then you want to bring this other forward. So this was my linear things that I brought out. And that's another thing too to remember. Don't tuck everything in your tree really tight so it looks really smashed. That's what we all tend to do. I've done the same thing. I still do it. I mean, I'll do a tree and I'll get back and think, oh, I got to pull that out. It's just natural to want to make sure you get it in there good. But you can pull a lot of this product way out and get a lot of dimension with it. So pull out your longer branches on your floral, balance them down. Once again, don't line them up over each other. I've got one there, one here, then down, and then the floral spray that I didn't attach, but I held up here, would have that same lime green in it. See what I'm saying, ladies, on this side? I mean, look like you guys. Just coming back down, zigzag, offset. Then once you do that, you can put in some filler picks in the holes. Of course, you're also going to do ribbon and ornaments. It's going to fill in some of those holes. So you don't have to make it solid floral. But these little type picks are great to just tuck in. See, I've tucked one here. You could just tuck it in some of these bare spots. And then there's, yeah, Margot's got this spot. It's got the little ornament on it. So that's what I call a filler range, okay? So that's my floral. The next step I do is ribbon. And there's a lot of ways to do ribbon. It's just however you like it. Every one of us does our ribbon differently. You know, it's just what we like. You could do a bow, a series of bows. Once again, they're not lined up, either horizontally or straight, but just in your spots throughout the tree. You could do that. You could also do, this is what I tend to do, just a little single loop. I've just taken the ribbon, turned around, used a little floral wire, cut my string or whatever length I want it, and use that V-cut that Margot was talking about. And then just use that here to put in and kind of tuck it like that, and it fills those bare spots. Ribbon will fill a lot of your tree, and it's an inexpensive way to do it. A lot of people, when they first start out with their tree, you can't afford, most of us can't afford to buy all this at once. But if the first couple of years, you want to invest in maybe your topper floral and some just small floral to come throughout, use a lot of ribbon the first few years, and then every year add a little bit more floral to it, a few more ornaments, and then eventually after a couple of years, you'll have the lush look you want. Of course, if you're like me, by that time you're tired of that thing, and you want to start completely over, so then yeah, that may not be a good idea. But anyway, I also used, I forgot real quickly on my floral, I did use this tip throughout and did the linear. I just now looked at that and saw that. But that comes on down through there. Okay, another way, the last one I'm going to show you about ribbon, I also tend to do this to fill a lot of holes. Let me get to the end of it. Just take a long strand of ribbon, and honestly what I do, I leave my ribbon on the roll for this step because I don't know where it's going to end up in the tree. So I just let it fall on the floor if it's attached to my roll. Wire the end of it with floral wire. You can use chenille stick, anything you want to do. And I would start probably right under here, wire it deep in there, and then just weave it in and out of the tree. I'm going to show you guys, I hadn't forgotten. Weave it in and out and use the branches of the tree to secure it back in there. Then pull a branch around where your junction is. And you can even go up under a branch completely if you want and hide it. And it just looks like the ribbon is flowing in and out of the tree. And that will fill a lot of holes if you want to do that. And it gives you it gets you a lot of bang for buck with your ribbon too. Let me show you guys what. Let me start right here. Wire it in. Come down under here. Pull a branch forward. You can even go under completely a branch to kind of hide it, and then bring it out in a different spot. And that's a way, like I said, to use a lot of ribbon to fill a lot of holes. And then the last thing we do with our trees, or at least the last thing I do, are ornaments. And ornaments also, you want to do depth with those. If you've got some holes or bare spots in your trees, these large ball type ornaments are really good to fill holes, and they bring your eye and light to that. The trick with the large ornaments is you want to put them deep in the tree. I mean, not so deep you can't see them, but pretty deep in there. And I would balance those out. I'd put those in first and put those in the bare spots, but once again, make sure and get back, look at it. Don't have them lined up near each other, and just balance them throughout the tree sporadically. And then lastly, you can put a variety of other ornaments. These are kind of what some people call the storyteller ornaments, or the ones you've invested your most money in, the delicate ones, the ones you want to see the detail on them. Put those near the end of your branches or out forward in the tree. So this is the same ball as that, it's smaller. You could wire that out near the front. These are little pine cone ornaments. I actually took 2 of them, tied them together with the burlap. It kind of makes more of a statement and impact instead of just one. And you literally can just drape that over a branch. Do them at different, ignore our tags. You wouldn't have those, but drape them over each other so that one's longer, and it just looks like almost like a tassel pine cone hanging down. You can also attach the little birds that Joan showed you earlier. The nice thing about these little clip-on birds, they're very lightweight. You could attach it to your floral pick, but you could also attach it to any of these branches. And see, it'll hold right there. And it just looks like the birds have lit in the tree. And just do those all around. A red bird would really pop on this tree too. The little red cardinals that we have look really cute, and they pop out. Yeah, and here's a little snowflake. These have been really popular this year. And you would just put that, And a lot of times place your ornaments, like when I did this floral pick, floral spray here, you might want to put an ornament right in there, to kind of draw attention to that, like where this floral spray is. You could put an ornament right in there. Just wire in, say, a ball ornament, and that'll bring your eye to that. It's almost like you're making a little floral bouquet. And the pine cones that I also put in here, that's a good filler for holes, what we call holes. And that was really one of the last things I wanted to tell you. First of all, have fun. It's not rocket scientist, it's a Christmas tree. We get all stressed. I do the same thing. We all get stressed out about it and want it to look good, and we'll get back. Sometimes I'll spend 3 days on a tree. It's crazy. But it is good, I've learned, to go away and come back with what I call fresh eyes. You know, even if you just leave for 15 minutes, when you come back, because I will get so caught up in doing a tree, I'll lose sight of the overall tree. And so if you'll go away, when you come back and look at it, where your eye goes or what you notice, that's what you need to fix. And Melody, who was here earlier, said that what she had found is to look through it with her smartphone. And for some reason that smartphone showed her where the holes are. And she could just point them right out. So, you know, if you've got a hole, put an ornament there. Tuck in a little bit of filler, floral if you need to. Sometimes you can just twist the branches of the tree and make it look better. You know, and just work with the tree itself. But the main thing is just get back and look at it. Practice makes perfect. You're not going to be perfect the first time you start doing trees. We've done trees here for a few years, and every year I try to get better, and you try to learn something that you didn't know the year before. So it's fun. I love doing it, and I think if you enjoy it, it'll come out looking better. But just keep, you know, a balanced type look, and don't have anything overpowering, but all of it spread throughout. You'll be happy with it. Do you have any questions? Anything I've skimmed over?